Hello and welcome to episode 55 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're your source for weekly Drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
Yeah, basically we're just regular dudes drinking, regular beers, and we're going to be talking about some magic story today.
Yep, that's right. We're doing a Drunken Vorthos. Here we go. Yes!
These are always so fun.
Yeah, these are fan favorites, so we try to bring them up as much as we can. And of course, because it's a Drunken Vorthos, it is also a Silver Series.
Silver Series, baby.
Yeah, do you want to explain what a Silver Series is?
Yeah, sure. So every week when we drink our beers on the show, we have a rating system, and that rating system reflects the tiers in Arena. So bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, mythic. And silver is the tier where you might find any of your macro brews. So, stuff that's not particularly interesting. It's not necessarily bad. It's just, pedestrian, let's say.
Yeah.
And so on the Silver Series, that's when we drink all of our macro brews because we want to, prove that we like them too. We just have a tier for them. That doesn't mean we don't like them.
Exactly. And we're trying to figure out what the best one is, or the best one for camping, essentially.
Yeah, think of like a March Madness bracket we've got going on here.
Exactly. It's kind of the idea of the best beer to drink all day and still be standing. Still standing?
Well.
I don't know. So we're going to go through the episode and explain each beer as it comes up. But the first one we're going to be drinking tonight is Kronenberg 1664. So
Nice.
this is a beer I actually don't know if I've ever had before. I thought I did, and then I bought it, and I was like, wait, there's a difference between the 1664 Blanc and the regular one. And I think I've only had the Blanc before.
Yeah, you were mentioning that before the show, and it made me think, yeah, actually, maybe I've never had the regular Kronenberg either.
Yeah, so this is a lager. It's a pale lager from France. It's originally from Canon Brewery in Alsace, but now it's owned by Carlsberg Brewery Group. So it's, got a bigger parent company above it. It is 5%, and of course its founding year is 1664, which would make sense, because
That makes sense.
that's the name of the beer.
Not the oldest beer we've had in a Silver Series, but,
It's
still pretty old.
Pretty old, and as memory serves, I'm pretty sure older beer usually means better beer. Tends to be...
It's been working out that way so far, Stella dominated its bracket.
It sure did. So we'll have to see what this one has in store for us and how it kind of measures up against the others. But magic news. Wow, Jeff, the Arena Open is this weekend.
Finally.
It's draft.
Finally.
Innistrad Championships is this weekend.
Yeah, I don't know why they have to put everything on the same weekend.
There's so many things.
There was nothing last weekend. There's going to be nothing the weekend after this one. But this one is when everything has to happen.
But anyway, as always with the Arena Open, we know it's draft. We know you're very excited. But our number one golden rule is just decide how many times you're going to play in it. Because, hey, it's a slippery slope. You might spend way too much money and all the money that you need for holiday gifts, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. So make sure you go in saying, okay, I'm willing to spend 2 entry fees on this, and if you scrub out twice in a row, just have the have the strength to stop.
Yeah, just stop.
Because it's super easy to just get pissed off and jump right back in. But I'll tell you what, you're not going to be drafting or playing your best in that state. So
That's very true. Just stop everything you're doing and watch the Innistrad Championship to see what they're doing over there in that split format of Standard and Historic. Because I have no idea what's happening in Historic.
yeah, really interested to see what historic decks people are playing. Because again, yeah, like you, I have no idea.
Yeah, so we will talk all about that next week. But this week, it's story time. We're just getting some beers, drinking. Well, yeah, as always. But talking about the 5-episode story arc that was Crimson Vow. So, Jeff, do we just kick things off right here? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, let's get into this because it was an interesting story.
It was. Where we left off was basically Olivia had just taken the key from Catilda and killed her in the process and talked about her wedding. So now, apparently, but before the story actually begins, no one heard her say that because they don't know what's going on. So that's we.
Oh yeah, I thought that was weird. I remember thinking that too. Like, she told you she was having a wedding, guys.
Yeah. So basically, the story starts with this one character that we've never met before, and his name is Grigori, and he's a human in the village of Stensia, which is basically where all the vampires rule. And he is collecting blood from his mother, who's like passed out,
Yeah, so he,
basically. And
yeah, so they have a blood tithe in effect, right? Like, they have to pay blood to the vampires. But his mom has some sort of condition, and so he just like jabs her arm and takes her blood so that he doesn't have to give any.
yeah, I think what happened was that in the massacre of the Harvesttide, she got hurt somehow, and then she hasn't really woken up since. And Olivia has decreed that every household must give a bowl of blood per day per person for her wedding, which is really scary. But also at the same time, hey, if I ruled over a place and I was like, hey, everyone owes me a 6-pack of beer for every person in their household every day until my wedding, I'd be like, absolutely.
Every day,
Yeah. Yes, I'm going to do that. Because I want everyone to fund the booze at my wedding. Which is one thing, this is the beginning of what exactly does blood do for these vampires. Because we know a bunch of things, but throughout the story it seems to waver between all of its properties. But anyway.
Yeah, it seems to be whatever's most convenient at the time.
Yeah.
Is how the blood affects them.
Which could be how that works. I don't really know. I guess that's how it works on Innistrad. But anyway, Jeff, we meet the Gatewatch, or we go back and hang out with the Gatewatch again.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't even know who's actually in the Gatewatch anymore, but I guess, yeah, Teferi, and Chandra are all Watch members, yeah.
I am calling the band of random folks the Gatewatch, because it just seems a little bit easier than just the gang. I guess it could be just the gang. The Gatewatch gang.
Yeah, our motley crew of heroes here.
Yeah, and we are dealt just a heavy hand of Adeline and Chandra flirting, just right off the bat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's like, and that doesn't stop, by the way. That goes through for all of all of the stories in which they appear.
Every scene that they are in, there is a moment between them. So things are getting...
Exactly.
We had a little bit of it in the Midnight Hunt stuff, but this one is just like really heavy-handed. And this specific one is talking about how they want to get some wine later. So, you know. You just know right off the bat something's gonna happen. So excited for that. And then what's their plan? Like, what are they gonna do now? Like, they're like, oh, how do we figure out what's going on? Who would know that?
Yeah, so they decide maybe the oldest vampire on the plane. Let's just go talk to him. Well, the oldest vampire that they know of. I guess. They don't know that Edgar is available. And so they decide to go meet Soren, which I thought was like a ridiculous plan given how poorly it went last time they did this.
Yeah.
Which ostensibly was like a few days ago or something, or like a couple of weeks ago.
Exactly.
But they decide they need to go to Markov Manor and ask Soren to help them. Even though last time they did that, he got super pissed off at them.
Yeah, and then like got in a huge fight with Sigarda, and then that was the last time they saw him. So it seems like, and I guess,
and then they stole his shit and ran out of his home.
And then he's like, "Well, you fucking ruined everything because now, basically, we have to go get the key back to finish the ritual, so that sun and night you will have day again on Innistrad." And it seems like a loose plan, and they basically kind of wave it off by saying Teferi's like, well, has Soren ever really been happy? He's always kind of grumpy. And they're like, oh, you're right. He is kind of grumpy.
Yeah. That makes it more likely that he'll help us.
Yeah.
No, man, if I were Soren, I'd be like, oh no, Olivia has the Moonsilver key. Maybe you shouldn't have fucking taken it from my mansion.
Exactly.
It's like, get out of here.
Though, to be fair, he is walking around his manor, which he usually spends all of his time there, and he's kind of remembering his grandfather and what he used to tell him, who's Edgar Markov. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to go downstairs to chat with him, to ask him about what I should do. Because apparently he just wakes up. Like, they have a place where they just have all the old vampires are sleeping. And you can just wake them up whenever you want to talk to them. Like, so nobody's really dead, ever.
Apparently he does that every now and again, too. Just wakes up his grandfather and it's like, yo, what should I do about this?
Yeah, so that's kind of cool, but also weird, but whatever. Anyway, he goes to do that, and oh no, Edgar's gone. Except for we all knew that, kind of, from a story
Sort of.
spotlight card.
Well, so yeah, Fateful Absence was a story. I like how you have it labeled as story spotlight number 0 because it's not even a story spotlight card for this set.
Yeah,
It was in the previous set, and it shows Soren opening a coffin and seeing nothing in it. But that's not what happens. Right?
No, they specifically mention that the coffin is missing, and he walks in and just sees that his father's coffin's missing, along with a bunch of other coffins that he doesn't even realize at that moment. But we'll get to it later.
Right.
So
yeah.
that's
that's the funny part I find is that he gets surprised when all the other people are there too. And it's just like, did you not notice there were like dozens of coffins missing?
So
you only cared about your grandfather.
So this is the first time, and this isn't always. This happens often in the Magic story and the cards, where the cards depict something and the story tells you something else. We will see a couple more times this instance, and they're not really big things. This is the most egregious, where it's like, well, they said it's not even like, no, it's weird.
It depicts something very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just because not everything's finalized when they have to finalize the cards, so not everything gets finished at the same time, so probably the story's still evolving, even after the cards have to like be finalized.
Exactly. Though,
or the other way around.
I don't know how you could also just go in and cut out all the bits that say coffin and just change it, but whatever. Obviously, I'm not the writer, so I would be really pissed if I wrote something and then they're like, oh, by the way, this tiny point changed because the artist did it differently, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't matter. But let's keep going because that's not even a story spotlight from this set.
Right.
But anyway,
that was the other thing. I was like, why was this in the previous set? That was definitely just a balancing thing. They wanted Fateful Absence to be in the previous set for whatever reason.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. Like, oh, they just wanted that card. It's a good removal spell. Let's put it in the last set. That must have been some design thing.
And they were, trying to give mono white a boost or whatever.
Yeah. But while he's looking at the empty space where the coffin was, a bat flies in with a first story spotlight card from the actual set, which is a wedding invitation. Woohoo!
Yeah.
And of course, he grabs it and reads it and is like, I know exactly what this is. But, oh no, he kills the bat. He grabs the bat and crushes it and then takes it. And he's like, oh, what the fuck is this? And then the Gatewatch gang shows up.
Yeah, I was wondering if that bat was like a vampire too. Some of them turn into bats or whatever.
Yeah,
Did he just crush a vampire in his hand?
Maybe. I guess he would know, but it also, well, as we'll see, vampires don't really give a shit about other vampires that much, so...
Oh, yeah.
So he could easily be a vampire.
That's putting it lightly.
He just doesn't care. So he just crushes them.
And he's like in a slightly bad mood, so... That thing had to die.
Yeah, but apparently he's always in a slightly bad mood, so whatever.
Yeah, so what the hell? Let's ask him for help.
Exactly. But that's the end of the first episode of our chapters, I guess.
Well, I forget if the Gatewatch meets him and talks to him at the end, or is that the start of the next one?
They do it at the end, but it's very quick. It's really just like, hey, we're here. Let's go to the wedding. And that's basically what happens. It's a very short...
Yeah. And then the Gatewatch is like, what wedding? And then it's like the one Olivia told you about when she killed Catilda.
Yeah, remember that part?
So if you, our listeners, don't remember that, just go check out episode 50, which is our Drunken Vorthos Midnight Hunt. You could get a refresher and not look as silly as the Gatewatch did.
That's true.
They forgot about something that was just told to them.
And I forgot to mention that at the beginning. If you don't know anything about this story, go back to episode 50 and listen to that. Or further back, we do some more Innistrad lore. But Jeff, we're going into episode 2, which is the Dolores Waite of Pleasantries, and we get another story spotlight right off the bat.
Yeah. So one thing, the story spotlight is Voldaren Estate. So now we're actually going to the wedding, basically, which is held at Olivia's mansion, which is called Voldaren Estate. I was just gonna say one thing I've really noticed in the way that these things are written is the authors really love to start you off with a character, with the point of view of a character who A, you've never heard of, and B, doesn't matter at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's happening here, where Cordelia is speaking to her vampire friend Relio at the vampire wedding. And Relio is kind of annoying her because, I don't know, he doesn't like a certain family of vampires, I guess, and doesn't think they should have been invited to the wedding. So
Yeah.
that's where we enter here.
He seems to be the kind of like racist uncle character, you know? Where he's
Right, yeah, that's the exact right way to describe
like
it.
he doesn't like
In my day, we never would have affiliated with such people.
like they're disgusting and I can't believe they do things with demons or whatever.
So anyways, while he's complaining about, so the Dom Nathi, or the vampire family that he hates, while he's spouting off about them, one of them just kills him. So Henrika Dom Nathi comes up from behind and just stabs through him from the back, basically.
Yeah, and then Cordelia just is like, oh, okay.
Yeah, she's just like, oh, thank God he was getting so annoyed.
Yeah, but this is also her partner that she's been with for like hundreds of years. So like, it's not even just like some dude that's her friend. It's literally like her husband. And then while he's talking about that, she decides like, you know what? You're getting kind of annoying. If you ended up dying, it wouldn't be that big a deal. And then he literally dies immediately after that.
Yeah. Man, that's kind of puts it in perspective, right?
Yeah.
Your partner's just being slightly annoying, and so now you suddenly wish they were dead.
Yeah, or just like think it'd be okay. The one thing I was really excited / shocked by is Henrika. They just add a little flavor in there, but they say that she was rumored to be the one-time lover of Grizzlebrand. So basically,
Yeah, I remember that.
so she had a one-night stand with Grizzlebrand. I want to stop the podcast real quick to talk about demon sex. Can you do that?
Yeah. Demon vampire sex. Yeah, I thought that was a really strange detail to include. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. So that was one of the things that racist Uncle Relio was complaining about, is that the Dom Nathi are rumored to consort with demons. And so that's like their thing. They love demons. And apparently Henrika loves demons a little more than the rest of them.
Yeah. But I was also, I don't know if this was a thing, but isn't there a thing about how angels are like smooth down there, right? Like there's nothing going on. Isn't that?
Well, I don't know.
I think that's like angel lore. So then I was assuming demons were also
They're
that
too
way?
pure for something as base as sex.
Because they're not, they are created in a different way, so they don't need that.
Right.
And I think that we've seen a lot, like demons don't either, right? So what did they do? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, you know what? Get out of here, Chandra and Adeline. I'm going to say Henrika and Grizzlebrand are the sexiest couple of this story.
Yeah, they definitely are. But anyway, I don't want to get too sidetracked on that, but I was just like, what? What is this?
Yeah, and so if you want to learn more about Henrika, the Grizzlebrand's side piece, you're not going to, because that's the only role she plays in this story, is to walk up and kill Relio.
Yeah.
And it kind of was presented like, it was like the first half of the story almost. Kind of like presented that Henrika was going to end up mattering, and then she just doesn't, so that was a little surprising to me. But basically we're just in this like really lavish great hall in the Voldaren estate, or Olivia's like manor. And it's like snowing blood, I guess is the best way to put it. They look like rose petals, and they're falling, they're in the air, and when they hit you, they turn into their liquid form of blood. And so that was the other thing about Relio's. He didn't follow the dress code,
Right.
which was to wear red.
Yeah.
And he wore like white, so he was getting all these blood stains on his white shirt from all these rose petals snowing down on him. Yeah, that's why you follow the dress code, people.
Yeah, exactly. Because who knows when there's going to be some crazy blood magic where a bunch of blood petals are coming from this guy.
Oh, just gonna say this is when our bride enters. So I guess she just like swoops in the middle of the great hall. You know, vampire weddings are a little different, I guess.
Yeah. I was kind of imagining there were stairs, but I don't think they ever mentioned it. But yeah, I'm sure that she swooped.
Yeah, she like maybe, but I always in my head she was like flying, but going down the stairs.
Okay, yeah.
As like a, just like as an ostentatious kind of thing, like I could use these stairs,
but I'm so powerful.
I'm gonna hover slightly above them and like, follow their general trajectory.
Yeah, that definitely that makes sense.
Yeah, and this is where I guess another difference in vampire weddings is that it's normal to just not know who the groom is, or I don't know, is that a thing? It's like a surprise reveal of who's going to be the groom.
Yeah.
But this is when she like brings down Edgar's coffin and opens it up, and it's like, this is the guy I'm going to marry. It's Edgar.
Hooray! Except for I think she introduces him as her husband, and I'm like, wait, what? Didn't
right.
We haven't got married yet?
Did you guys get married?
I don't know. This is also where we go back and we see that the Gatewatch gang has already like formed, and they're outside the gates trying to figure out how to get inside.
Right, because the bouncers.
Yeah,
the bouncers aren't going to let them in.
There are bouncers outside, and one thing is, okay, there's a lot of talk about everyone's wardrobe in this. Soren's wardrobe. He doesn't do the attire. We have, of course, the bride and the groom. We get to talk about Arlen for a really long time. We talk about Adeline. Chandra is dressed to kill, and I don't know what she looks like. They don't talk about it at all.
Yeah, I mean,
I
assume she wore red because it's Chandra.
Yeah, but like, I was just surprised that it seems to be such an important thing on her card, and then in the story they didn't even like Adeline doesn't even stop and like look at her or anything. It's just like,
right.
Also, where did they get these clothes? Who made these clothes? Are these blood clothes? Like, did Soren make blood clothes for them? Like, I don't understand.
No, Arlen's was like explicitly like woodsy.
Yeah,
basically said.
But it's like, where did you get I don't know. It makes sense that they would dress up, but it's also like, how though?
It is funny now that you say it. It's like Arlen was dressed in this elegant piece that, has a little bit of her bestial nature.
Yeah, and there's like
glimpsed into that, and then it's like, and then Adeline was wearing this, very.
There's like
elegant
leather,
Cathar-like.
Yeah, but she still has like metal and leather and stuff, but it's like really nice.
Right.
And then nothing about Chandra.
And it's like, and Chandra was there too.
What? Oh.
And then her card is dressed to kill.
Exactly. But anyway, the important part that we find out is that they're standing there trying to get inside, and they find out that there are magic wards around the estate that stop people from going in. Specifically, this bird that flies into it and just gets fried up. Which leads us to our third story spotlight card, which is by invitation only. So it basically means, hey, if you don't have an invitation, you can't get in. And each invitation is a single entry. There's no +1s to this wedding, which is pretty rude.
Yeah, I thought this scene was so ridiculous because it's just like, they make it seem like such this matter of life and death tale or whatever, but this part is like they have one invitation and there's 6 of them. And it's like a bunch of drunk people outside the club trying to talk the bouncer into letting them in.
This is
the bouncer's just like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Like, this is the most relatable scene, I think, for me in the whole thing.
Yeah.
So...
just like, what? Not even a +1? He's like, no.
Also, this is a moment where Chandra notices the smell of Adeline's leather, which is important.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Yeah. I just made little notes of every time we get those little hints because they are not hints and it's not a surprise at all. But it's a welcome one. It's it's a great story bit. But if anyone thinks that it was a surprise they get together, it's not.
Yeah. I mean, it was even clear from the last set of stories.
Exactly.
Right? They were more than friends.
Yeah. But anyway, so Soren goes into the wedding alone. And we get some story bits with Soren.
Yeah, like a little bit of flashes to his past and a little bit of just he hates everyone, I guess. Like,
yeah, it's like he hates everyone, but it's not entirely his fault. But it does make you like throughout the story, I think Soren's bits are the most interesting to me. Because he's portrayed a very specific way to everyone else. And this is kind of the first time we start to see him being portrayed as, like, not part of the gang. Like, he always seems a little bit like a loner and stuff, and everybody thinks of him that way. But this is the first time it seems like he's actively, like, picked on and, like, thought of as, like, the weak little one, which is interesting.
Yeah, because he's, stronger than all the other.
Yeah, because he can, like, he's a planeswalker. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, oh, yeah, I remember you made that angel. Whatever. You think you're so cool. Like, she was stupid. It wasn't going to work, and all this stuff. You're like, whoa, can you make an angel? You can't make an angel. Like, what's happening?
It worked for a really long time, dude.
Yeah, like, what the fuck?
Well, I'm sure Henrika was mad that he made the angel, right?
That's true.
She defeated Gristlebrand. So.
Yeah. But this is also the moment where we realize that the Voldaren estate is, like, enchanted.
Yeah, that was also kind of a cool part. Is like, apparently it just kind of, it has the Hogwarts thing where staircases move and all that shit. But it does so in accordance with Olivia's will. Like, what she wants it to do, it does. And so there's all these, legends of if you ever wander off in the Voldaren Manor on your own, you're never seen again.
Yeah.
Because you got lost in this, like, epic maze that is constantly moving, so you can never solve the maze and get out. And
so then the halls are just filled with all these, like, ghosts of these people that came over for dinner and died. And then were, like, eaten by vampires. Actually, that is kind of interesting because Voldaren Estate makes blood as the land. And the actual estate does kill the people. So that's, all right. I kind of like that. That's good flavor.
Yeah. It also gives you a little bit of insight into Olivia where it's like, it's just fun for her that if one of her dinner guests wanders off alone, he just dies.
Yeah.
She just thinks that's hilarious and is going to, manipulate her estate to make that happen.
Yeah. Which is... I mean, makes sense. I mean, if that's your sole purpose for inviting them over, also, which I could see her doing.
Yeah, exactly.
But now Soren comes inside and is greeted by Olivia. And this is kind of when Olivia's really rubbing it in his nose. It seems like this whole thing is for Soren, almost. It's not really. We find out what it's...
almost like they do this to try to piss Soren off, because every decision is just, like, aimed at pissing Soren off.
Yeah. So basically, to wake up Edgar, and this is our another story spotlight card, Edgar's Awakening, Olivia has to, like, basically... make him drink her blood.
Oh, yeah, it's super weird.
Yeah, which is like a vampire thing, because if your blood is in other people, or you have other people's blood, it's like in your stream, you can control... They basically control blood, right? So if someone else has your blood inside them, you can control what that blood does, which is essentially the things that they do, their body. And so she, like, cuts her wrist, basically, and pours it into this hole in the coffin, and somehow that gets inside of him, and then he wakes up, and then she, as the card shows, she has more blood going on to him. Which...
He literally just, like, goes to town on her wrist.
Yeah. It has, like, some weird, like... I don't know if you were getting this, but I was feeling some sort of, like, breastfeeding vibes, almost. It had a...
Yeah, it was very strange.
Yeah, it did have a little kind of ickiness to it. Because obviously it's blood and whatever. But, like, there was some weird thing, something else going on. I don't know.
Yeah, and it also said moments. So I'm just imagining, like, everyone's sitting there watching him, like, suck on her wrist for 2 minutes or something. What the fuck is this?
And then, like, after that, that's when she prances around and shows Soren, oh, not only that, but all of the relatives that you hate, specifically the ones that you hate, I've also brought them, and I'm also going to wake them up. Because, you can't have the groom stand up there by himself. He has to have, a best man and,
it'd be bad form,
of course.
To have only the bride's side.
So I think in that sense, Olivia is, very nice to Edgar, at least. Hey.
Yeah, it's really considerate.
Yeah, thoughtful. Because the rest of the wedding is just a sham so that she can gain total control over, all of Innistrad, essentially, but the vampires at first. But yeah, it's basically all of Soren's relatives wake up and they don't even say anything to him. They just walk by and they make him.
They just like laugh at him pretty much.
They just make him kiss their cheeks. They like kiss his cheek.
Yeah.
It's basically like your aunt walking up and being like, "I kiss me," but not saying anything.
Do the double cheek kiss.
And they just like know he's a buzzkill, and they're like, whatever, he's here. And it's like, it's a really sad, like, specific fuck you moment to Soren, which I thought was very uncalled for.
Yeah, that moment actually like resonated with me a little bit because my family never did the like cheek kissing thing of your aunts and uncles or whatever, but my wife's family does. So anytime I would go to one of their events, I would have to do that, and they always laugh at me because I was really awkward doing it because it's like I didn't know that I was supposed to do this. I don't really know, like I've never done this before, you know?
Yeah.
And so that when I read that, I was just like, I get exactly what it's feeling like too, because it's just like,
yeah,
you have to do this weird thing that you're not used to.
Exactly. No, I'm on the same boat.
They appreciate that I do it though, but
Yeah.
they do laugh at me a little bit sometimes because
it's just it doesn't, you know. Yeah, and I feel the same way. My family didn't do that either. So when I would be around people that did or would like kind of expect that, it always felt a little. Like I try to jump into it, but it's like I don't know. It doesn't make me feel super comfortable, especially now. Now, it's like, why would you ever do that? But of course, a couple years ago, it's like it's just kind of strange. But anyway, that brings us to the end of chapter 2, which also kind of brings me to the end of my beer.
Yeah, brings me to the end of Cronenberg 1664.
So let's go to a beer break. This beer break is brought to you by our patrons over at Patreon.
That's right. It's the best way to support this show since, you know, no company wants to sponsor us. But luckily, you, our loyal listeners, do.
And when you become a patron, you get an exclusive invite to our after party, which is a mini episode recorded immediately after this one where we ramble about non-magic related things and just, I don't know what we were going to talk about, but yeah.
And even better than that, you get to buy me a beer.
No. You get to buy me a beer.
Well, let's leave that up to them.
Yeah, so if you go to our Patreon, go to patreon.com/arenaregulars, and you get to vote on who your favorite host is. It is kind of funny pouring these beers into glasses. Usually, you're not going to dirty a glass for one of these.
That's right.
Though, with that being said, our next beer, Jeff, would you like to introduce us to our second beer of the night?
I would. Up next on the docket is Coors Original, I guess previously known as Coors Banquet. Now, this rebrand makes sense to me because I don't know how things were in the States, but for a long time here, there was no Coors Original. It was just Coors Light. And so you'd be like, is there an original, like, is there a regular Coors, or do they just only make this light beer? And then it's actually relatively recent that I started seeing Coors Banquet on the shelves. And then I wasn't sure if that was the original Coors or if that was like a new beer that they had.
Yeah.
And so I had to look it up and be like, oh, it is the original one. So it totally makes sense to me that they're just calling it Coors Original now and not Coors Banquet, because that did confuse me when I first saw it. Because there was this thing that, like, it's weird that Coors Light is just way more, like, well-known and popular than Coors Original.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, compared to, like, Bud and Budweiser, or Bud Light and Budweiser, where it's, like, you see those often enough. But, like, Coors Light and, like, the silver bullet is so big that you don't always see the Coors Banquet or Original. So this is a lager that was originated in the USA in Golden, Colorado. Yeah, get me some Colorado right in there.
It's your home state.
Probably the reason why the cans are gold. And there's bits of gold on it, which is nice. It's 5%.
Because it's from Golden.
Exactly. Look at that. And the founding year was 1873. Though I did find this fun little thing that I did not know. So in 1873, there were German immigrants, Adolf Coors and Jacob Schuler. They were from Prussia. I guess they were coming from Prussia, but originally they were German. I don't know. Anyway, they came to the States and they went to Golden, Colorado, and they started a brewery with a Pilsner-style beer recipe that they got from this Czech immigrant, William Silhan. And basically, at that point, Coors invested $2,000 and Schuler invested $18,000. So you would think it would be called Schuler original, but basically in 1880, which was only 7 years later, Coors just bought out everything from Schuler. And well, I'm sure Schuler feels really bad about that. So
Yeah, smart move.
Smart move.
Man, all I'm thinking is I wish I could start a brewery for $20,000. That would be great.
Yeah, that would be really great. If you are a patron on our Patreon, you can help us start a bar or brewery if you'd like. We have a really good tier for that, so go check that out.
Yeah, very affordable.
Yeah. But anyway, Jeff, let's get back into our story here.
Okay. So now we're entering chapter 3, or episode 3, or story number 3, whatever you want to call it. It's called Forever Hold Your Peace. And there's a suspicious amount of time, I would say, talking about a glass window.
Yeah.
It's like literally several paragraphs just about there's a stained glass window. And how much time it took to create, and how thoughtful the artist had to be to create it and stuff. So you just know that this window is not long for this world. Like that thing is going to get shattered.
It's going to get smashed. Yeah. I think it's specifically the one of Olivia. She got it made for the wedding or something, or maybe it was just for her house. But it's a picture of Olivia with her fangs out and everything, and looking cool. But it's the same thing with the Chandra and the Adeline. We're like, well, yeah, you spend so much time talking about this, something, I know what you're doing.
I'm not going to be surprised when they get together at the end,
Exactly. And we get a continued thing with Olivia is tormenting Soren, which is literally everything she does. And it seems like the whole ceremony that she's doing is kind of pointed towards him, which continues to feel weird.
It is told from his perspective, I guess. So obviously, he's gonna feel that way. But it does seem a little bit she's always staring at him and seeing trying to read his reaction and hoping that he's annoyed. Or pissed off.
Exactly. Which makes a little bit more sense after this moment where Olivia calls all of her thralls, and basically they're on the ceiling, and they crawl up and over and basically they pull this chain thing down, and they repel this huge thing that looks like a bird cage because it has this cloth covering over it, but actually it's our story spotlight number 5, which is Sigarda's imprisonment. So it's Sigarda just wrapped up in blood rope.
I don't understand totally what happened here. Soren fought Sigarda, and then she just was pieced out, I guess. But she was kind of weak, and then Olivia swooped in and I don't know, imprisoned her in her own wings and some red ribbon. I don't totally get how we got here.
Yeah,
but she has Sigarda trapped. Yeah,
exactly. Which is still to the confusion. This is another moment where it's consistently talked about how her wings are wrapped around her and she can't move because her wings are around her. However, in the card, her wings are out and the ribbons are just around her body.
Fully extended.
Now, I don't know if this is more of a logistic thing with the card where if her wings weren't extended, you wouldn't be able to tell it was an angel because the art is so small most of the time. I think that probably was part of that. But having her wings wrapped around her makes a bit more sense. However, this specific angel being the one that upsets Soren is kind of strange from what we saw from the last one.
He literally fought her a week ago.
Really intensely too. It seemed deathly. And so we don't see what happens. And Soren throughout this is getting a lot of flashes to when he was basically transformed into a vampire. Right. Through this, we will see a lot of flashbacks of when he was a child and Edgar was kind of forcing him to become a vampire. And there was an angel who was hung upside down with her wings trapped, and she's trying to break free, and she can't, and they're drinking her blood, which is... we had talked about it in another Drunken Vorthos about how that's how they became vampires. And Edgar talked to a demon, and he told them to drink angel blood. So
he was like, "Yo, if you make me a vampire, I can hook you up with some vampire booty." notice this camera cut.
This is also the moment where we find out Olivia's like master plan. But besides like the whole, take control all the vampires and stuff, but drinking angel blood is really hard apparently. Like it could kill you. And so you have to be super old or something. I don't exactly know how this works. It seemed a little confusing.
Like really pure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it could kill, or maybe it can kill vampires or something.
It takes a really powerful vampire to drink angel blood. I think.
So like Edgar is one of the reasons, is like, oh, you need a really old, powerful vampire. Edgar, super powerful. Or you have something that's made of the moon that can help you drink it, which is the moon silver key.
Right, so that's why she wanted the moon silver key.
Yeah, so this is it's supposed to tie the whole thing together. She needs the moon silver key to drink angel blood so that she controls all the angels on Innistrad, because if she drinks blood, she can control the other blood that's around them.
Right, she can control the angels. Basically, she wants to be able to control the angels.
Exactly.
And allegedly, this is a way to make that happen. I'm just imagining her like dipping this big ass key into blood and then like licking it off the key.
Yeah, does she like suck it? I guess I was thinking that the moon silver key like was also meant for this, so it had like a hole or like a kind of divot where you could pour something.
Some sort of basin.
Like a shooter, like one of those, like like one of those shot slides at a bar where they pour it and it slides all the way down into your mouth. So it was kind of like a blood bong. I don't know. It was stretching it a little bit to try to figure out how you would do this. Besides, like you were saying.
I'm just imagining her like staring at Soren as she licks the blood off this key.
Just like what? It's so weird. Anyway, so that's the plan.
So this kind of like harkens back to what you were talking about, right? Where it's like the blood seems to do all these different things. Because I don't know if we've mentioned it, but the vampires are just getting drunk off the blood that is being provided at this wedding.
Yeah.
Like it overtly mentions a few times that they're like intoxicated. And so I guess that blood gets you drunk. This blood lets you control whoever it came from.
Yeah.
And we'll see another instance of blood having a totally different effect later.
Yeah, so we know that exactly. So the blood that they're drinking I think it's all okay, let me start over. Okay.
It's probably human blood gets you drunk.
Yeah, I think it's an excess of blood will get you drunk. Like if you eat way too much food, you feel kind of loopy or sleepy or weird. Maybe.
Yeah.
And it's a stretch, but like closer. They're just drinking a ton of just like literally every villager ever. But like also if you could control all the villagers, I guess you kind of do because they have to give you the blood now because you force them to.
Right.
I don't really know. Anyway, there's a ton of blood everywhere and everyone's drunk at this point, basically. Which Olivia also seems like that because she's also mentioned a few times already that she doesn't want Soren to ruin her big day. It's like,
yeah.
Why did you invite him if you didn't want him? I'm confused. Like you're trying to toy with him.
Because she had to taunt him.
Yeah. But she's also worried that her day is going to get ruined, or she wants to complain that her day is getting ruined. I think that's what it really is. She's excited to complain about that.
Bit of a bridezilla here.
We're going to hear a couple more times throughout the story. So this is not the first time we know that she's kind of saying those things.
I think she's also just so arrogant, like it mentions a few times, her love of herself, let's say, her narcissism runs pretty deep. So she probably just thought, even if I invite somebody who, he won't be able to stop me because I'm too good.
Yeah, totally. No, that's totally it. And anyway, so the ceremony starts, and they just start right off with the vows. And so she says her vows to Edgar, which
were lovely.
Yeah, it's basically just her saying, hey, I only want you so I can control all the vampires. But she also kind of controls him. He's kind of brainwashed because it's her blood that brought him back up. And Soren talks about how because she was so emotional at the time and she was so excited and there's something about your feelings are in your blood, so when you give it to someone else they will feel the same feelings that you have.
Right, yeah.
which is
That's
also
why he
when,
didn't want Edgar to drink her blood.
yeah, because when he talks to his grandpa, he spends a lot of time trying to calm down and be relaxed and not be in a tizzy, I guess. Anyway, so Olivia didn't do it right. I don't know. Anyway, and
Who knows?
but this is the moment where we get the classic wedding move, like the, speak now or forever hold your peace thing.
Right.
And
And remember that Soren is like chained up at this point. So some guards like threw some shackles at him basically. And so while Olivia's pissing him off, there are like 4 dudes holding chains that are around Soren's neck. Just like just giving him a yank if he ever gets out of
I
hand.
guess that was the main reason why I thought it was all for him, because it's like no one else is chained up. Also,
no one else is shackled right in the middle of everything.
yeah, like,
Well, I guess Sigarda.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
But as I understand it, Soren does exactly what you said. I object to this wedding or this marriage. But he coalesces blood into a sword that then slashes through his chains.
Yep, he does.
Which is pretty badass.
It's pretty sick. I mean, like, whatever, sanguimancy, whatever. Blood magic is cool.
Sanguimancy. Something like that. Blood magic, sure.
Yeah, blood magic is pretty sweet. So he slashes through his chains, and then right when that happens, we get to cut outside, where the Gatewatch has a nice little discussion, because of course we need some comic relief, because how could you not have comic relief in this story, where they're talking about whether a vampire wedding would have cake or not. I found this to be useless.
Yeah. And I love how she asks if they have cake, and then it's like describes how everyone starts laughing. I'm just like, was that a joke?
Is it funny? I don't know.
What's the answer? Is that a real question? Like,
is it? I don't know why is this funny? And then basically Teferi says,
red velvet cake or something.
Yeah,
I don't think this is a joke.
So then Teferi basically says something really nice about how weddings bring people together, and it doesn't matter if there's cake or not.
Even vampires.
Yeah, and it was just like, is this supposed to be a sweet moment? Like, I don't.
That's not what this wedding is about at all. It's about domination.
Yeah, and this moment's basically just to like, oh, we have to go check in on them while they're still standing outside waiting to get inside. And
that was my favorite part, because it's just like, so all this shit is happening, and the Gatewatch, the heroes of the tale, are just like chilling outside having stupid discussions.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, I did think it was kind of funny. There was a couple other ones that are added in, but it also felt like, why did you?
And I'm just imagining the bouncers standing there, like rolling their eyes.
Like, what if they could have just asked the bouncers that question? Like, that would have been funnier, but.
Yeah.
Or, trying to get some intel. But anyway, that happens. And then Soren just starts, we cut back to him, and he's slashing, stabbing stuff, going after the Moonsilver Key, and he, like, stabs Olivia's dress, or he's, like, slashes her in the dress, and then the Moonsilver Key falls to the ground. And as it does that, light explodes from the key. And we get...
Catilda, Dawn Heart Martyr.
Mm-hmm.
So Catilda, if you remember, is the witch that was trying to reverse the cycle of endless night. Olivia kind of swoops in, kills her, and steals the Moonsilver Key. But her spirit is now emerging to ruin the festivities.
And while this is happening, Olivia and Soren are fighting over the key. And Sigarda, like, wakes up, because apparently she was asleep before. And then she just, like, freaks out and breaks through the blood chain ribbon things that she was in. And
yeah. Like, well, so I thought, like, Catilda, it was a little unclear. I thought maybe Catilda freed her somehow.
Oh, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Sent a bolt of, like, light at her, and that freed her, or woke her up, or whatever.
And then she explodes, and this is where the stained glass breaks.
Oh, man, that took so much work.
I know, man, those whatever they're called, glass window makers. It's so sad.
Yeah.
And then everyone on the outside, we get a little bit more of Adeline and Chandra having some sort of love connection while they watch all the light explode out of this estate, and the wards crumble down, and it's like go time. I think what they say is we've got a wedding to crash or something like that.
Yeah. It's no longer by invitation only.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know if we mentioned this, but I guess they assembled like a veritable army of people that were just waiting around,
Right.
like over the hill, to charge this manor.
Yeah. So it wasn't just I guess that makes sense. It wasn't just the five of them, there or whatever number it is. They did get a bunch of like villagers or people that were harmed in like the whatever massacre. What is it called? Dawnheart Massacre? Yeah.
The Harvest Tide, right?
Harvest Tide, that's what it's called. See, that's why I have you around, so you can remind me what the things are called. But that finishes up episode 3 of the story. So we're going into episode 4, of course, which is The Wedding Crashers, and starts right off with a story spotlight. This is basically kind of the last thing that happened in the last thing, but it's Sigarda's summons, which is her blasting light everywhere, breaking windows, and summoning the battle, whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, it seems based on the card that she should be like summoning angels to the fight to come help. But it doesn't really seem like other angels actually show up in the story.
No, but it does mean that she makes the other people stronger somehow and make them angels,
Right.
kind of.
But again, the art on this card has a bunch of angels like bursting through the window.
I think
like
they're metaphorical angels, because
Okay.
you're turning a bunch of little ones into angels, right? So
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know. That's what I'm going to try to. I'm trying to bend it, just a little bit.
Just a little twist.
Yeah. So anyway, all hell breaks loose, and basically this army that the Gatewatch has assembled rushes into the estate. And as they're rushing in, they're killing all the guards and doing this stuff. And they do make enough time for Teferi to look over at Chandra to make a joke about how ugly the decor is in the Voldaren estate, which again seems, I guess, if we were watching this as a movie, maybe it would have felt more like Legolas and Gimli kind of banter. But as but it seems like, does Teferi really care about fashion or?
That's the thing for me. It just didn't seem like something Teferi would say.
Yeah.
I would expect Chandra to say that to somebody else, not Teferi to say it to Chandra.
Or maybe it would give like Arlen something to say that's like, because she's really not about the rich life, right? She would kind of be
or
like
Kaya, because Kaya's character is pretty fluid, it seems.
Exactly. So it just seems sometimes they just don't know how to write Teferi very well, and they try to make him funny for some reason, and then I don't know.
This just makes me like you mentioned the Legolas Gimli thing. This always makes me think of Marvel movies, where like every hero is Iron Man now, where they're like facing mortal danger and they crack a joke.
Yeah,
and it's like this is just their perfect blend of like they've mastered the comedy action story blend that they have. They have their recipe for it. And this really made me think of that when you're like charging in to fight a bunch of vampires and then you comment on the decor.
Yeah, because it's supposed to show that you are so inept at battling that you aren't focused on it. Anyway,
adept, right?
Whatever, yeah. Yes, so then we get another story spotlight, I guess, which is the Resistance Squad, which I don't know why this is a story spotlight card, but we're getting into a group of weird story spotlight cards that I don't know why they're story spotlight cards, but whatever. So it's just a bunch of random people running inside and fighting. And
yeah, these are the people hiding behind the hill the whole time.
Yeah, and we get all of this is from like Arlen's perspective, I think. And she's talking to Kaya, and Kaya's like, "Oh, I feel some ghost energy," and they're all really angry. And it's all of the ghosts that Olivia Voldaren have killed over the years in the mansion. And then Kaya's like, "I'm going to go see if they want to help," which is just a straight Lord of the Rings ripoff from Return
It's
of
also
the King.
like, isn't she a ghost hunter?
I thought she probably killed all of their friends in the last one, right? Like,
yeah, she was literally murdering spirits left, right, and center last time, and now she's like encouraging gaining their loyalty to help them
in their trust or whatever,
fight, like Aragorn did.
Yeah, it's so weird. doesn't make a ton of sense.
And before they rushed in, there was also like a weird moment with Arlen and Kaya where I wasn't quite sure what they were trying to do, just like build that friendship in particular.
Yeah.
It talks about how like Arlen notices Kaya in a new light or something. It felt really weird and out of place, and I was like, are they trying to do another like flirty thing like the Chandra and Adeline,
or are they trying to do like Chandra is growing as a person and Adeline or Arlen is seeing that? I don't really know what it is. Because a lot of people.
But anyways, that struck me as strange, and then they come back to it at the end where like Kaya and Arlen again have like a special moment.
And Arlen wants to be around, yeah. So we'll get to that. But anyway, this becomes the Arlen show for some fucking reason. I don't know why it's important that she. I guess no, it does, because Arlen was all trying to prove that she cared as much about Innistrad as Soren in the last story. So now this story, she's like a front runner. And so Arlen is running in, and she's running and being sad that her pack isn't with her because they left her, and blah, 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 blah. And it's something about Tovalar, and hoping that maybe he would help. But, like, doesn't she hate him? I don't know why this came up.
Yeah, there's a whole thing. They try to explain that away later, but...
Yeah, it seems strange. Anyway, this is when, once again, Olivia is screaming that everyone is ruining her wedding, and she's so upset. And somehow Kaya busts through the window with all the ghosts now.
Yeah, like, it didn't take her very long to go recruit her ghost army.
Yeah.
You know, like, Aragorn should actually learn from her, because she did it way faster than he did. It took him a long-ass time.
But I guess it's basically just the card shows that she's busting through. There's a lot of cards showing people busting through windows when they didn't bust through windows.
I thought she, like, snuck up on her in, like, incorporeal form or whatever that she can do. You know, she can, like, phase in and out.
But instead, she busted through another window. Or at least that's what the picture says. But
with a crossbow, according to the art.
Yeah. Yeah, and they did talk about her shooting bolts at her. And it hits her dress and like the train on the ground, and the train kind of breaks into like blood. So apparently her dress is made of blood.
But also there were like spirits popping out of it. So she had like, I guess those are the spirits of the blood of the people that's contained in her dress or whatever.
Yeah.
Her dress is like made out of like people.
I mean, that kind of makes sense. There are some good bits where they talk about where the blood is from, which I kind of like. I've never really, you usually think about, oh yeah, there's a bunch of blood fountains or whatever, but specifically talking about, these are all the people that encompass the blood from the fountain. I liked some of those. Those bits were quite nice. But this whole time I'm trying to figure out where the fuck is Soren? Like, shouldn't he be running after Olivia? It seems like that was his job, right? Wouldn't you think?
No, it's Arlen's job, obviously.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, Soren's no longer pissed at Olivia for some reason, and he's busy running after Edgar.
Yeah. He's doing that, but before that happens, Olivia runs away, and Kaya looks at Arlen and says, "Go after her. We've got this," or whatever. And so Arlen's running off to have like a one-on-one with Olivia. But yes, tell us about how Soren is fighting Edgar, because this part, ugh.
Yeah, so basically, like, when the angel got let loose, when Sicarda got freed, Edgar kind of scurried away like a little, like a little bitch, basically. And that, for some reason, Soren decided to chase him instead of Olivia for reasons that we've already mentioned that we don't really know why that was his decision. But he goes into they end up meeting in like, what was it called, the Sanguitorium or some shit?
Yeah,
it was like basically where they store all their blood. Like if they ever need some, it's their reserves, I guess. It's their blood room where they store a big ass pantry just full of blood. I guess blood doesn't go bad.
They must have magic barrels or something.
Yeah.
But it has like, I was imagining it has like barrels of blood, kind of like a wine cellar, and then there's pipes that also funnel the blood throughout the house to all the fountains.
Yeah, it's their keg room, I guess.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Yeah.
But Edgar and Soren start talking essentially, but it quickly devolves into a pretty gruesome fight, actually.
Yeah.
This one was like the most fucked up fight in any of the magic stories, I think.
This is probably my favorite part of the entire piece, is this bit.
Right.
Just because I think it was well executed by the writer. I did enjoy the bits. We do have a lot of like gruesome fighting stuff, but it really feels like
Yeah, and he managed to weave in some of Soren's past memories and a little bit of dialogue here and there that actually felt like they might be yelling this while they're fighting, and not the stupid like we fight for 2 seconds, then have a deep discussion, and then fight for another 2 seconds.
yeah, exactly. There's a lot of like Edgar's throwing furniture at Soren, and then Soren pulls out his sword and is trying to fight Edgar, but then Edgar grabs Soren's wrist and like breaks his forearm, and then while that's happening, they're doing some other things, and then Soren grabs a pipe from the wall and smashes Edgar's head, but then Edgar grabs Soren's head and breaks it into all these barrels, and there's like splinters going into his face. Like,
yeah, and he cracked Edgar's skull on with the pipe smash.
and there's a lot of like gruesome stuff. There's a moment where Soren gets thrown into the barrels, and as the blood is spilling onto him, he just puts it in his hands and drinks it, and then the strength from all the people he just drank gave him power to fight Edgar, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, that's when he like rips the pipe out, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, it's pipe time.
I just like that he gets thrown into this place and he's just like drinking this. It would be like,
and I'm imagining he's like eyeing, he's staring Edgar dead in the eyes too, as he just,
exactly,
like,
he
drinks
sips
blood
from his hands. Like, it would be essentially the same fight if we're fighting, but we both have like pints or like mugs of beer in our hand, and you spill your beer, and then you get thrown into the keg, and the keg spills it all into your glass, and you take a bunch of like a big swig of beer.
Just take a big ass
before you go fight again, and keep your mugs in your hand. That sounds like a great.
Yeah.
We should write that.
Chug the beer, rip a pipe off the wall, and then bash your skull in.
as you continue to chug the beer, you're just like wind falling the whole time. That sounds great. We should write this because it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, but I guess what we learn really is that it doesn't actually seem like Edgar was entranced by Olivia. He just wanted to marry her.
Yeah. And he also doesn't think super highly of Soren.
Oh, yeah, that's an understatement for sure.
We hear earlier that Soren would wake him up to ask him questions about stuff, but apparently Edgar was like, fuck, just figure it out by yourself. Why you keep waking me up?
Yeah, why do I have to do everything all the time?
Yeah. And then Soren's like, well, I made the angel. Like, wasn't that good? He's like, yeah, because I did my entire life's research so that you could learn that. This was an interesting moment for me because they're immortal. I was wondering, would that be what scientists would be like if they could live forever? If some like Isaac Newton was like, well, fuck you. I'm the one who figured this thing out. So like you're not so great. Like, I gave you all the pieces so that you could learn how to do this. So like, it just made me think
that's totally that'd be interesting.
Like, if you could live that long to see what your studies have brought, thousands of years later. So,
just Einstein's there like, oh my God, I laid it all out for you guys. Yeah. Holy shit. I have to do everything.
Yeah. So, I did think this whole bit was nice, and through all of it, he's pushed back into the moment as a child, having his head pushed into the glass of blood. I kept thinking it was wine the whole time because I was like, I want a glass of wine. But anyway,
yeah,
they're like holding Soren's head because he doesn't want to drink the blood from the angel because he feels bad for the angel. And then as he's transforming, he starts to feel like he's falling, and his whole family's falling away from him. And as he's falling, he opens his eyes and realizes he's actually falling in real life, and Edgar has thrown him into a pit.
Yeah, a pit of blood.
Yes,
so I guess there's just this like giant basin of blood in this sanguitorium.
Yeah, well, you're getting all these. Eventually, you get these bowls every day from all of the houses in Stencia. You have to pour them somewhere, so you dig a hole, you pour it in the hole, and obviously, you ladle it out later, right?
Yeah, and I did get the impression that this was also like primo blood. Like the stuff in this sanguitorium was the nice stuff. You know, it's like the wine cellars. Where
Oh,
you
yeah.
you keep the good stuff.
The
It's
really
not the stuff you give to your guests
Yeah.
for free.
It's the really old blood. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
the only the congealed would we keep down here.
And then at some point, also Soren randomly just like thinks of Nahiri
Yeah,
for
well,
like a split second. And
yeah.
then that's
Well, it a lot of the way that Edgar was talking to Soren is the way that Soren talks to Nahiri.
right.
Because Edgar's constantly talking about how Soren is like a child, and all Soren does to Nahiri is talk about how Nahiri's a child, comparative
Okay.
to their age.
I like that interpretation, right?
Yeah.
He learned how to be a mentor from his mentor, and so
And
that's why he's
exactly, and he's kind of having all these things flipped on him, where Nahiri got freaking pissed off because her mentor wasn't helping her, and he's in this situation where it's basically happening again. So I did like
yeah, I like that. Okay.
that's a nice kind of like piece that's bringing around, because he also he just constantly thinks everyone's a child compared to him, but then you see everyone in his family treats him like the little
They treat
baby.
him as the child.
Yeah,
so.
and so it makes sense. So that was kind of a revelation for me. It was nice to see that, because yeah. Anyway, this section is the golden jewel, I think, of the entire piece. Everything else, throw it away. This piece,
The Edgar Soren fight, yeah, it's definitely the best.
so if you're gonna read anything, this is the piece to read. But
And that leads into a fight that was the opposite. I thought it was very disappointing.
it was horrible. Oh god, it was just so.
So this is now we flash over to Arlen chasing Olivia. And I will say that this whole time, like throughout the entire attack on Voldaren Estate, Arlen is attempting not to transform into a wolf because she keeps saying she needs to keep her wits about her, which I guess means that she becomes super primal when she turns into a wolf.
So this is the part that made me think that in the last story she wasn't turning into a wolf every time.
That's what I was going to say. It's confusing because I feel like the last story, there wasn't that distinction that you don't keep your mind really like. There was the whole like bestial instincts,
Yeah.
for sure, but there wasn't like, oh, you don't think rationally in your wolf form.
And the thing about it that's weird is that all these stories, from the Midnight Hunt through Crimson Vow, every chapter is written by the same woman. So she wrote all of them. And so that's why it's confusing that I was thinking it just seemed like a different choice.
Right. It did feel like it was almost written by different people.
Because I was waiting for it to be weird how Arlen is changing back and forth all the time, and this one was the complete opposite, where it's like she's not changing back and forth ever.
And maybe that has to do with the fact that werewolves aren't the focus. So
Maybe
maybe she had a certain number of times that Arlen had to transform, imposed upon her by wizards last time.
Yeah.
And this time she's like, right, well,
I
it's
can
not about
actually,
that. So.
I can write it the way that I would want to write it, because this is more compelling, right? It's much more compelling that she wouldn't want to transform because she can't control herself when she does.
Although I don't like the way it was handled in this.
No, but as far as like a story arc, it's much more the Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing than
Right, yeah.
which is like interesting compared to I'm turning into the better version of me, or essentially that's what it feels like every time. It's like, why are you not?
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you not a wolf? Right? You're
don't you
a
just stay
stupid
like that?
human that can't do anything. If you're a wolf that has a human brain, you'd be much better. I don't know.
Plus, there's the awkwardness of whenever you change back, you're like naked and shit.
Exactly. So, anyway, so getting back to the actual story. So Olivia is running and Arlen's behind her, and Olivia gets to a dead end, which this reminded me of Klaus, actually. So it's like
Okay.
Olivia's the vampire who's Klaus, who's running and kind of, she's not teasing Arlen very much, but it has the same thing of this vampire is being chased by a werewolf. And then they turn around and they think that, oh, we finally got the upper hand. But this situation is Arlen thinks she has the upper hand on Olivia.
Right.
And then Olivia
It's the
fucking
opposite, yeah.
whips her up. So I liked that little, we had a little gem from Klaus. I liked that Klaus came back a little bit in this moment. And
Good old Klaus Falkenrath.
yeah, it's just
The true master behind it all, I'm sure.
yeah. But basically, Arlen's just going just head first, trying to stab and get into Olivia's dress to find the Moonsilver key. But she gets owned. It's just like, but she's also human at this point. Like she's just a human,
Right.
trying to like
And then
find her pockets.
And Olivia, like, so because remember that her house is subject to her will, it's not like it's only a dead end because she wants it to be a dead end. She wants it to Arlen to think that she's cornered.
I didn't even think
And
about
then she
that.
suddenly switches.
Ooh, I like
She
that.
suddenly switches it, and then it's not a dead end at all. And there's like all of her family paintings, and she grabs a sword from a nearby like piece of armor. And then she's kind of like toying with Arlen, right? And she's like, "Why are you fighting me in your human form? You'll never win like this," basically. And Arlen's fighting with this inner desire to remain in her human form, but she knows that Olivia's right, that she will never win if she stays human.
Exactly.
Because vampires are just way stronger than humans.
So that leads us to our story spotlight number 9, which is a reprint Sure Strike. Why is Sure Strike a story spotlight card? I don't know.
It's supposed to depict Arlen turning into her werewolf form, and that is in the art, but it's like, okay.
It's also in the art that she's jumping through a window, once again.
Yeah.
And this is
Classic.
the most egregious of them all, I think. Just because the flavor text on Sure Strike says
Flavor text isn't even close.
yeah, so it says before the officiant even had a chance to ask if anyone objected to the Voldaren Markov union, Arlen had made her opinion known, which is not what happened at all.
That's not even close to what happened.
Yeah, so like first of all, Soren did that, and second, what? Like
Yeah, sorry, I just was reading the flavor text for the first time as you were about to telling me what you were
Yeah.
about to complain about. I was like, it's got to be this flavor text, right? Because it's not even close.
it was just ridiculous. So anyway, that happens, and now she is in her wolf form. Except for she gets quickly distracted by all the paintings of
It's
Olivia's family around her.
it's so dumb. So she like, gives Olivia a big whack, and Olivia, goes flying. And then presumably to like show that she was right about her animalistic instincts, not being a good idea, she just starts clawing at the portraits of Olivia's family,
Yeah.
of the Voldaren family. And while she's doing that, Olivia just walks up behind her and stabs her.
Yeah, with her hand.
With her hand, yeah. She just holds her hand really firmly and just stabs through Arlen's back.
Right through her. So, and then Arlen falls to the ground, and that is the end of episode number 4. So before we keep going, we have another beer break to get to.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I thought it was really disappointing that they made all of this, like, much ado about, you should only change into your wolf if you really need it and whatever. And then it's like she changes into a wolf and gets instantly owned. Like, I get that you were trying to do she lost the fight because of her animalistic instincts and she couldn't reason. She was just, like, clawing at random shit. But I thought that was really dumb.
Yeah, it didn't make it. I didn't think it made any sense at all. And there, we will get to the rest of the wrap up, which we have more thoughts about. So
Yeah.
stay tuned for that after the beer break.
All right.
Hey Jeff, this bud's for you.
So we wanted to make sure we did Coors and Bud in the same episode because we did Bud Light versus Coors Light in the same episode as well.
Yeah.
So it's only fair that we give their progenitors the same chance to go tete-a-tete here.
Exactly. So, yeah, so this is going to be our Bud because it came out 3 years after Coors, or I guess was founded.
Oh, it's downright recent, 1876.
Yeah. It is also 5%. It is also a lager. It's also made in the USA, but it was originally from St. Louis, Missouri.
That I didn't actually know. I don't think I ever would have guessed St. Louis. One thing, I don't know if this is even true, but one thing I heard is that whoever started Budweiser like stole the like Budweiser was originally a Czech beer. And
Oh.
if you want to buy that beer now in the United States, it's called Czechvar. That's
Oh.
the original Budweiser. But when you're in Europe, that's actually called Budweiser. Like the beer that we call Czechvar is actually just called Budweiser in Europe.
Oh,
And so
weird.
allegedly the guy who started Budweiser just stole the recipe for Czechvar and took it to the States and started it there. And so when Czechvar came over, he also just took their name, apparently. Didn't even didn't even hide that he's trying to steal their beer. And so when they came over here, they had to use a different name. And so it's like Czechvar here. But I remember when I was living in Russia, I bought a Budweiser, and I was like, this doesn't look like Budweiser, though. Like, this is totally different.
Huh. That's crazy. I had no idea. That's so weird.
Now, granted, the person who told me this was one of my international, like, I lived in an international dorm in Russia, and they were from the Czech Republic. So
They might have a little
some
bit.
biases.
Just a little bit, but that's really interesting. I like that story. But another story that I like is episode 5, which is Till Death Do Us Part.
Perfect segue.
The Gatewatch gang is fighting all these other vampires, but not only are they fighting vampires, but the other vampires are fighting other vampires. Who knew?
Yeah, that was probably my favorite part of this story. Was that while this great battle is going on, the battle for the future of Innistrad, some vampires are just like, you know, trying to take advantage of the situation to kill people that they have grudges with.
Yeah, because there's like all these families that don't really like each other, as we know from Relio and the Domnathis. So
Yeah.
everyone else also has a grudge. We also saw a duel earlier, which we forgot to mention, whereas like just 2 vampires were going at it, and one of them died. And that's when Olivia's like, "Oh, hooray! There's blood at the wedding. I love blood." And it's just like,
Right. Yeah.
So I guess
she's
is
like, I'm glad there's murders at my wedding. You know, I appreciate the blood sacrifice or whatever.
yeah, because it's like part of the festivities, I guess. So this is a normal thing. It feels very like gruel to me to be like, "Oh, there's chaos. Let's start killing people." Actually, no. I guess maybe that's more Rakdos. But anyway,
Yeah, and then so Chandra's like fighting and just burning people, incinerating vampires to a crisp. But then there's like a spear or an arrow or something. I think a spear got hurled at her. So Adeline like rushes in and blocks it with her shield. So there's a lot of like Chandra fighting alongside Adeline that's happening at this point.
yeah, there's like a moment where Adeline's like shield is up, and I think to Chandra like pulls her in closer by the hip or something, and it's like, is this the moment they're gonna kiss? Like it really felt like it. Like in the heat of the battle, their emotions are gonna
Right.
boil over. It felt really intense. I was like, is this the time? But in the end, you'll have to see what happens. But
Yeah.
in any case, all those things keep happening, and as we remember, Tovalar, for some reason, jumps through a window because everyone's jumping
Right.
through windows. I guess he might as well have done it too. And he's in like full wolf.
Yeah, gotta blast through a window. That's just the moral of this story. is
Exactly.
that's the best way to enter a wedding. So if you ever want to go to a wedding and you want your entrance to be memorable, make sure you jump through the window.
Did that happen in Wedding Crashers? Did they jump through a window ever? Because I want to know. Because I'm pretty sure to crash a wedding, you have to break glass. So
Yeah, I feel like that's a 50-50. I would not be surprised whatever the answer to that question was.
maybe we'll have to figure that out for next episode.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if I want to watch Wedding Crashers.
I don't know. Maybe I'll just look it up. Weird movie facts. Do they break a window in Wedding Crashers? But anyway, so Tovalar busts through, and he's in full wolf form, and he looks at Chandra and like Kaya, and they both just point to where Arlen went.
Right.
But it was kind of like, "Hey, are you on our side this time?" And he said, "Uh-huh." And they're like, "All right, she's over there." And then
Okay, that way.
and then he runs over there, which felt super weird as well.
And quick reminder, Tovalar is like the guy who turned Arlen into a wolf, but they have differing views on how the werewolf community should interact with the humans. He thinks they should kill all the humans, and she thinks that they can coexist peacefully.
Yeah. And they also had a huge fucking fight where both of them almost died. So,
yeah,
interesting.
Exactly.
It's just strange that he's here.
Yes, and he showed up with a lot of other wolves, right?
Like the rest of her pack, basically. And I'm sure, apparently, some other ones. One called the Wedding Crasher, so obviously he had to come. They're like, well, you know,
like that.
He's called the Wedding Crasher,
Everybody
so
knew the Wedding Crasher.
We should bring him.
So now we have this scene where vampires are fighting vampires, werewolves are fighting vampires, humans are fighting vampires, and spirits are fighting vampires.
Who's gonna win?
Yeah. One thing I thought about this scene though is like the vampires were never doing well. Like at every description, it's just like, oh, Chandra easily incinerated one, and then Adeline like easily blocked another spear. It's like no one is having any trouble fighting any of these vampires.
Yeah.
Any of the scenes.
So
Teferi's like whooping their ass, and the way they include Teferi in the plot of this fight is that someone else is fighting a vampire, and that vampire slows down for like a split second and allows them to easily win. It's just like, all right, I appreciate that that's what Teferi's doing. It's just I'm just imagining him like standing at the back, like slow that guy down, slow that guy down.
It's just, you know, he could. I don't know why they want it to be so tame with the time magic instead of like, and this person jumped in the air to stab somebody in the face and they slowed down in air while somebody else could get out of the way or something. It's like, no, he just, by a few frames, they just added a couple frames in his like movement.
Yeah, exactly.
It just seems so, like, couldn't it be cooler than this? Like, there's so many interesting things you could do, but instead, like, I don't know, he does time stuff. All right, well,
and they all like think Teferi had something to do with it because they were like, "Oh, I was out of position, but that blow didn't quite."
Imagine if Teferi can't do anything actually, and everyone just thinks he can. Like,
oh yeah, he's just like, oh yeah, I slowed that guy down enough for you to dodge.
Oh no, I helped slow the sunset. That's what I was doing. They're like, oh well, thank you for the extra,
slowed it down,
the extra like 15 minutes of sunlight or whatever.
Did you measure it and compare it against previous historical data of how long it takes the sun to set?
That's exactly what he's doing. Teferi doesn't do anything.
Teferi, gaslighter.
Yeah. Oh my god. He's really just an interior designer who like pretends to.
Yeah.
That's what they're telling me.
Somehow everyone comes out of the war thinking that Teferi was the hero who saved it. He's just like at the back, has a glass of beer.
Like no one has seen Zelfir in forever because he like, you know, phased it out. But he in actuality didn't. They just got obliterated.
It's like, I don't know what happened to Zelfir.
No, I got rid of I saved everyone. I just can't find them.
I totally saved
I just can't find them anymore. They're gone, but I can't find them. That's what happened. Oh, gosh.
Well, then the Teferi cards are really, really poorly designed because it's really obvious when Teferi wins you a game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So Soren, our friend, is in a pit. But it's filled with blood, and he's basically deciding whether he wants to try to live or not. He's like, well,
yeah,
I'm drowning right now, so I could just let that happen, or I could try to get out. And another thing, Jeff, what else does blood do? It gets you drunk, it feeds you, it lets you control angels, but what else?
It also heals you, apparently. So he just like in this pit of blood, and he opens his mouth and the blood starts to flow in, and all of his cracked bones and his like, you know, wounded, all of the wounds he was given by Edgar just start to heal, and he feels invigorated.
Yeah, they just like, it sews up all his wounds, and I'm just imagining him in a giant thing of like watching it happen. It's just him like
yeah, I know.
You know,
like, have you ever seen the movie Beer Fest?
Yeah.
The one guy's like in the big vat of beer, and he just starts opening his mouth and like tries to drink his way out of the vat of beer. That's what I was imagining.
That's exactly what happened. I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
And anyway, so he fixes himself, somehow gets out of the pit. I don't know if there's a ladder or he can like fly or something.
It said something about climbing, and he was like climbing with more and more strength. But I was like, how is he climbing? Is there a ladder in this blood pit? Or...
Yeah, there's something else that happens that's kind of weird like that too later on that I want to know about. But anyway, so he decides he's just going to march back into the battle and find Edgar, because of course, that's who he was fighting before, so it makes sense that he would try to do that.
But I also have another issue with this. Okay, so we've talked about like the multiple different things that blood can do, and it seems to only do one of those things depending on what the storyteller needs it to do at the time. Mm-hmm. But if blood is something that just heals vampires and makes them stronger, why would Edgar kick him into a big pit of blood? Maybe it's like giving your opponent life, right? Like you don't. Yeah. Why would you do that?
I was imagining that Edgar didn't know it was at the bottom because the bottom is so deep that it was just like, yeah, I'll kick you into this hole that's over here, and he just walked away.
In the blood room. I don't know what could possibly be in there.
Oh, it was an empty hole, but then they broke all the barrels so that it filled up with blood. That must have been what happened.
Right. Yeah.
Norm, I've been to this house before, and this hole was just a big hole. There wasn't anything in it before, so I thought that he would just be stuck down there.
I thought it was maybe going to be revealed that it was something where like he didn't really want to hurt Soren. You know, he just wanted him to learn or something, but that never really came to fruition.
No, Edgar's just kind of a little bitch. He just keeps running away all the time, which is basically what happens at this moment where Soren comes up to him and he's like, "Hey, you're still here?" Like,
yeah. What do you expect? You kicked me into life fluid that makes me stronger.
And now I'm Superman. And it seems very obvious very quickly that Soren is going to win the fight against Edgar. And he has like his sword against his throat. And he's just like, because he pulled the sword off the wall or whatever.
Yeah, he found a sword. So Soren, I guess, is really good with a sword. And he's never really been able to use one so far in this story. He like stole random weapons as he found them.
No, he made a really good,
or whatever.
He did a really good blood sword earlier. That was good.
Right, yeah. He did have his blood sword.
Yeah, which is so much cooler than this sword. He should just use his blood sword.
I guess he lost that in the battle with Edgar somehow. Probably because he's in a room of blood, so like he dropped it or something. And he dropped it into the pit. There we go.
There we go.
Okay, now we're figuring it out.
The blood sword went into the pit. He could just make another blood sword.
No,
all the blood. He makes a blood cannon out of the pit of blood. He had to use
the lead pipe. Man.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's standing there, and then they just decide. Soren's like, you know what? I'm not gonna kill you, Edgar, because you didn't kill me, so I'll let you go. And then he does. And then the Gatewatch is like, you did the right thing. That was, no, you shouldn't kill people. Yeah. It's like, you guys are fucking incinerating vampires everywhere. Why wouldn't you give a shit about this
but
guy?
Not that vampire.
No. And good job, Soren, for not killing your grandfather.
They need to make more Edgar Markov cards. So.
Mm-hmm. Edgar Markov needs to survive so that Commander players have something to play. It's so like.
I thought that too, though. It's like Chandra's turning like you did the right thing, as her other hand is like literally turning a vampire to ash.
It's like, why do you have this weird Batman complex? Like you don't. Like no one does. You've killed so many people. Arlen snapped that zombie's neck. Like no. Like none of you care about any of this. Why does this matter? Anyway. It's like.
I did like how they described the fight though, where it's just like. I don't know if Edgar also had a sword or what weapon he was wielding, but like every move was too fast for a human to actually track. Mm-hmm. So you just have this like blur of shit, and then Soren wins. Mm-hmm. There's like a big blur going on in the middle, and then Edgar falls down and Soren.
That's probably what it was. Afterwards, the Gatewatch were just looking at each other like, no, good job, Soren. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't want to criticize anything you do.
Because that was really fast. I have no idea what just happened, but good on you. Good job. But then, anyway, we get to flash over to Arlen, who's wounded on the ground, and Olivia ran away. apparently, without making
Yeah,
sure
so-
Arlen was dead.
No, she just like stabbed her with her hand and then like floated on off for some reason.
I guess to go drink blood, the angel blood. I guess that's what she wanted. She wanted to do that, so she wasn't worried about Arlen now. So she's like, I'm just gonna go drink the blood, and then my whole thing will work. And so Tovalar comes and finds her, and he brings the whole pack, which is our story spotlight card number 10. End the festivities, one of the most unplayable cards in draft.
Yeah, this is the worst card. Well, it's also unplayable and constructed.
But yeah, so what happens next? What's going on?
So this is her pack from the previous story. So again, you need to know the previous story, but these are the wolf pack that she had originally, and then they're legitimate wolves. They're not werewolves.
Yeah.
But they end up siding with Tovalar because he's more in tune with his beast side than Arlen is. She's more in tune with her human side. Basically, they they save Arlen somehow. I don't know. She just gets better in their presence.
They lick her wounds, or I don't know.
Yeah, they inspire her or whatever. And then Arlen's still not too happy with Tovalar because, he came in and killed a shit ton of humans in the last story. And they fought nearly to the death. But they're like, hey, I need your help. So she gets up and they all run after Olivia.
Yeah, somehow. I don't exactly know. I don't know. Wolf.
This part of the story felt really, really...
This is where everything breaks apart. This is where the deadline came up, and they were just like, and then this happened.
just you gotta wrap it all up.
Yeah.
Wrap it up.
So anyway, Olivia and Edgar find each other because they both didn't die. And Edgar tries to, touch Olivia and say something to her, and then she says...
He, puts his hand on his shoulder and is like, it's over.
Yeah, and then she is... To be fair, this makes sense, but she's like, you touch me only when I allow you to touch me, which is fair. That's just a regular human thing.
Yeah.
But she obviously doesn't care that much about Edgar at all.
But yeah, exactly. It's true that is true. Like, you shouldn't touch people without their permission. But also, it's a weird thing to say when somebody just puts their hand on your shoulder to try to console you or whatever.
It's weird when your fiance/husband puts their hand on your shoulder to say hello.
Yeah, because it's just impractical to ask if I can touch you every single time that I...
Oh, for sure.
If you're partners.
Yeah, but obviously she does not consider him her partner, so... Anyway, Olivia she's like, oh, if you guys care so much about the Moon Silver Key, whatever, just fucking have it. And she just drops it.
Yeah, she's just like, oh, wow, you guys, she looks, sees the wolves. Oh, you guys are still after that key? Whatever, fuck it. And just throws the key.
Yeah, and then they walk away.
Flies away.
And then everyone's like, okay, cool, we got the key now. Let's go over to the Celestials.
Yeah. Olivia and Edgar, fly, obviously, out the window.
Yeah.
And Tovalar
a different window that hasn't been broken yet.
Yeah, he runs up the wall and he does some parkour to try to fucking grab them and just gets the edge of her dress or whatever.
And it just bleeds him or whatever.
Falls back down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, they did it, I guess. Hooray, they got the key.
That's
it.
And that's the end of this big glorious battle. That is the climax.
is that
Olivia's just like, oh, you want the key? Fuck it, you should have just asked for it. I didn't realize you wanted the key. Sure.
She's like, oh, if you want this, whatever, I will.
And then easily just flies away. Why wouldn't she just fly out the window with the key then?
Yeah,
if it's so easy for her to escape.
I don't know about this part. So this is all kind of...
That was so disappointing. And we never really learned Edgar's motivations beyond, he was also interested in the power couple.
Yeah, no, I think that's something that he just was interested in. And he just, doesn't share the same values as Soren. But...
Yeah, but his card, it says, the flavor text, our kind has taken my gift for granted. It's time to correct that folly. When the fuck does he do that? That made it seem like he thought Olivia was trying to take advantage of him, but forgot how powerful he was, and so he's gonna he's gonna fuck her up. But that's not what happened.
No, that's not what happened at all.
Maybe he's just legitimately in love. Maybe he just loves her.
He's just an
And
old.
was just trying to have a legitimate wedding.
He's an old dude who's trying to get with a younger broad. That's what's happening. And he is changing his opinions about stuff so he can make her happy, I guess.
You know, she's only like a few hundred years old. You know, that's quite a catch in the vampire community.
Exactly. So, in any case, there's a piece where now they have the Moonsilver Key and Catilda's still with them, and they have to go. And it says how they're like walking tirelessly to get to the Celestis so they can finish this ritual, but actually they're in a carriage somehow.
They're like just right. It talks about them all like just lying on a bench, basically.
Yeah, and everyone is asleep except for Arlen and Catilda. And Tovalar left.
Oh, it is important though that Soren had stuff to do.
Oh, right. So he left. He's not with them.
Yeah.
Because of course. But anyway, so.
And that's literally the explanation. He had stuff to do.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, whatever. He's kind of grumpy and he has stuff to do, so let's just leave him be. But Catilda and Arlen are just talking about Tovalar, and Arlen is trying to explain how, oh, Tovalar is still good. He's okay. Like, we should keep him around because he's helpful. And Catilda's like, no, he fucking sucks. He's never going to change. He is going to be the downfall of you. And if you continue to try to pull him into stuff, he's going to ruin everything.
Well, can you imagine if you were hosting some sort of party and then someone comes in and murders half the people at your party? And then later your friend was like, I don't think he's that bad, though.
Yeah. You're like,
excuse me?
He
what the fuck?
is
he
the
literally bust in and killed everyone.
Yeah. He's the reason why we couldn't finish the thing. And he's the reason why there's Eternal Night. Olivia just was there also. So, no, he fucking sucks. He will never change. And Arlen's like, well, he's kind of okay sometimes. Anyway. So, yeah, that was strange. But in the end,
and so they tried to like explain it away as like Arlen wanted him to be there to see that he could fight alongside humans
or something.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like I don't know exactly what the logic was, but it was like, hey, if the humans are fighting the vampires, he comes in, he helps fight the vampires. He'll see that the humans didn't like turn on him and start killing him because they were allies, and so it's supposed to show him that they could be allies or whatever.
Or something.
And she apparently like called Tovalar. Like at one point Tovalar says, you called us.
Yeah.
To the...
And it was like, yeah, when she was hurting, she was like calling to him. I don't know. In any case, we should wrap it up because the rest of this is just all just
Well, there's
whatever.
A sex scene, so we gotta...
It's not really a sex scene. If it was, I mean, like, it's not. They reach the Celestis, and Catilda has the Moonsilver Key, and she puts it in the Sun Gold lock for Story Spotlight number 11.
She does. That's the sex scene.
Okay, right there. Oh, perfect. Yeah, so we have a glorious...
Key in the Sun Gold lock.
We get a glorious sunrise after the Moonsilver Key penetrates the Sun Gold lock. And everything's good now. All the people are happy. People are drinking wine. Life is good. People are like, they have beers. There's this, like, the festivities are back on. Everyone's happy. And it's time to say our goodbyes to our Gatewatch gang.
Yeah, it is worth calling out the Glorious Sunrise, the card, our Story Spotlight number.
Yes.
Just making
11.
that clear. Number 11.
Yes.
But yeah, now people just say goodbye to each other.
Yeah. And Arlen really wants to say goodbye to Chandra, but she can't because Chandra and Adeline are embracing in the willow tree. Which is what. So I was imagining this was just like the really cute before the bus is coming at summer camp, and you finally have the courage to kiss your crush right before you leave. That's what this felt like to me. Mm-hmm. Not so much hot and heavy, but just like really cute and sweet. But sure, it could.
Yeah,
also...
I don't know what you're talking about. I never had that courage. So.
And basically, Catilda's like, you know what? I'm not going to need this Moonsilver Key for a while, so I'm going to give it to someone who does need it. And Teferi's like, you know what? I need the Moonsilver Key to study.
After all, I did save everything and win every fight for us.
I'm a pretty big deal. I slowed some people down, not saying anything, but
Do you think you were able to dodge that because of your reflexes? Come on.
No.
Don't make me laugh. Yeah.
And Teferi mentions to Arlen, and that basically everyone's staying on Innistrad saying, hey, watch out, because if you see any black oil around or, Phyrexians, you might want to look out for them. And it's just like...
If you just hear anyone going, must be complete,
Yeah.
Please let me know.
And so, first of all, does Arlen know what a Phyrexian is? Why does he just say, look out? Like, come on, how?
Hey, please let me know if you see any Phyrexians, Arlen.
It's just ridiculous. Like, oh, okay, slap me over the face.
He does reveal that was, part of his motivation for coming to Innistrad in the first place, because remember, his motivation was pretty weak when they originally convinced him to come, is that he was concerned about the Phyrexian threat and wanted to see if they were on Innistrad.
So
is what I got from
so
what he was saying, but
working with the Moonsilver Key to see what properties it has to do whatever. Spoiler alert, how much do you want to bet that Phyrexians come to Innistrad, or they use the moon / Emrakul to obliterate the Phyrexians or whatever? That seems to be a possibility, but anyway, we're probably going to see new Phyrexia in 2023, so get ready for that one.
I mean, I'm wondering if Phyrexians are going to take over Innistrad, and the only way to fight them will, for some reason, to be let Emrakul loose.
No, yeah, exactly. I like Phyrexians a lot. I don't like Eldrazi, so I know which side I'm on.
Phyrexia.
And basically...
But I also am a bit nervous about artifact sets, so...
That's true. For other reasons, not for, lore reasons, but...
No, just for gameplay reasons. Yeah, they're always fucking broken.
There's no way. They can't be broken. But in any case, this is the end of our story. Arlen gets her pack back. Everything is good. Innistrad has sun. We're happy. And this is kind of emulated in the story spotlight card number 12, which is really just the backside of Catilda, but it's Catilda's Rising Dawn.
Right.
Which is one of my Worthless Lot cards. So I just want to, I weaved some of
So the weird thing
those things
I have about this card, though, is that to me, the art on this card, it looks like Catilda is human and not a spirit.
Yeah, it does. I also noticed that.
So it's like, did she come back to life by turning on the day cycle? Because the story still has her as a spirit the last time you hear from her, basically.
Yeah, no. It's just it just looks like it. So,
gotcha.
Yeah. But in conclusion, overall, there are some pieces. Where would you put this story? If you had to rate this story on a scale of bronze to mythic, of the stories we've dealt with so far.
Okay, so it's a relative scale.
A relative scale to what we've seen, not what we would hope.
Right. Relative to magic writing, not relative to all fantasy writing.
Yeah. Not, mythic is not Catcher
know.
in the Rye. Mythic is
yeah. Gold, maybe.
Okay.
I'm debating between gold and silver, personally.
Yeah. I can see that. I liked this one a lot more than the last one. I was really disappointed with most of the last story. So this one felt like a bit much better because there were pieces that I actually liked. And the last one I had a harder time grappling with some stuff.
The last one was more dynamic in the sense that, this one was all at Voldaren Estate. Whereas the last one, they ran around to different locations.
Yeah, which I didn't like.
It depends what you're looking for.
Yeah. I liked that they were all at the same place in this one. And I liked that we got some really nice, deep character changes in Soren, kind of. Not really changes, but, this interesting backstory that I hadn't thought about, and seeing him in a different light was nice. Where the last one
I think the last one really kind of fell flat for me, where it's the ending is so is disappointing, I guess. The ending was just so Olivia's just whatever, have it, and flies away.
Yeah.
What is that?
I was expecting the ending to be disappointing. Because the only ending that was really exciting was when Will gets his leg cut off. Sorry as I spoil all the fucking...
yeah, but go back and listen to that one too. I don't have the episode number off the top of my head. But at least there was a climax there. This had no climax.
It did. It was just a really disappointing climax. It was like a... To me, most of the story was up until Soren. Soren's arc was the only thing that mattered. Everything else was like...
Yeah, that was the strength of the story, I think.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy with the climaxes being like the Edgar Soren fight.
As soon as like Soren, that and then Soren comes out and like bests Edgar and lets him go. That's basically the end for me. Like the wedding,
right?
Because the wedding, for the most part, seemed to be just a way to show that Olivia is complaining about her wedding.
Right. Yeah. Also, wasn't that relevant?
So, there's some interesting vampire bits and some blood stuff.
I wish I understood Edgar's motivations a bit more, because they made that seem like it was going to be a thing, and then just wasn't. He was just down to get married for the same reason she was, I guess, to like be powerful. But
yeah, which
I wish there was a little more to that.
Yeah, which to me is fine, just because
He doesn't seem like the type of guy that would be down to be a number 2, where like this arrangement clearly was like Olivia's number 1 and owning the vampires, and he's number 2. And
yeah,
he's just okay with that.
I'm wondering.
That seemed a bit odd.
I'm wondering how awake he really is. You know what I mean? Like, how long does it take you to really?
Yeah, there's no like clear answer on that. Was he actually under her spell of some sort, or was he just legitimately thinking it's okay for him to be number 2?
I don't even think it's that. I think it's literally he wakes up and like thinks he's still number 1 from being number 1 forever, and then he doesn't spend very much time with Olivia, and then he just kind of leaves. Like maybe now he knows, but like he literally wakes up at the party and like.
Yeah, but then the weird thing is, like, when the wolves, Arlen and Tovalar and whatnot, burst in on him and Olivia before she gives up the key for no reason.
Oh, right. He's like, oh.
You, like, overhear him saying, I thought you had everything figured out. So they communicated at some point.
So she must have come and talked to him? That's weird. I didn't remember that part, but in any case.
That really struck me as odd, where I was just like, I don't understand what this guy's motivation is.
Yeah. It's all a bit murky, but we're used to that here. In any case, I'm happy that I read it and got to kind of explain everything to you,
fun,
so that you didn't have to read it, because that's always fun. If you do feel like you want to read a bit of it, please just go read the Soren and Edgar fight, because that's the best part. Writing.
Well, the Chandra Adeline sex part is obviously the highlight. But.
Yeah, sorry, the one sentence that is they're in the willow tree.
no, sorry, the Hendrika Gristlebrand.
There we go. That's the best sex scene, where they rub their nothings against each other. But anyway, that is what we thought about the Crimson Vow Vorthos.
Story arc.
There we go. Story arc. But let us go to last call so we can drink the last beer of the night and finally rate these things and get this show on the road.
Last call coming up.
So, Jeff, we have done a French beer. We did 2 American beers. What's the last beer for the night?
Well, obviously, we got to go for the all-time classic that everyone's familiar with, Molson Canadian here.
Yeah, that's right. I'm now reading this can, and this can is saying that Molson was founded in 1786.
Oh, well, then we needed to do this one second.
Yeah, I did not find that in my research. I found that it was the beer Molson Canadian was first made in 1959. So this is some new information to me as I look at the actual can. I wonder if they were making a different beer, and then that was the original beer they were making, and then this one came later and grew in popularity.
Yeah, maybe they just mean like Molson itself started So I think that's probably right. Molson itself was founded in 1786, but Molson Canadian, the beer, was 1959.
Yeah. So
Because they have other stuff like Molson Dry, Stock Ale, other
Totally.
stuff that I'm forgetting because it's all more or less the same.
So basically, this is, if you're not familiar, if you're not in Canada, this is kind of the Budweiser of Canada, or the Coors Budweiser. Well, one of those.
Yeah, so well, I mean, Molson actually owns Coors, or the other way around. They merged with Coors, so it's Molson Coors.
Yeah. In 2005, Coors and Molson have merged as far as like owners go. Obviously, they're still making things kind of separately-ish, but I think that might have been when Coors had brought up their banquet or their original, and Molson the
Right.
same to the States, so that kind of makes sense. Also, Coors and Molson, I believe that some of their major plants are in the Rocky Mountains, in respective Alberta and Colorado, so that would
Right.
also make sense why they would partner with each other, because Coors' big thing is it's Rocky Mountain water, so Molson has access to Rocky Mountain water. But in any case, this is a lager. It's also 5%. So everything we've had tonight is 5%. It's kind of nice to just keep it all the same.
Yeah, the Silver Series is always 5%, it feels like.
All right, Jeff. It is time to rate these silver beers.
Okay.
And we're putting them into very specific tiers, which is silver 1 through silver 4. 1 being the best, 4 being the worst, and then vice versa. You get points for each tier that you're in. So silver 1 beers get 4 points, and silver 4 beers get 1 point. Just to make it super confusing.
That's confusing.
Yeah, we just thought that'd be more fun.
Yeah. I mean, we wanted the tiers to match Arena, so silver 1 is the best, and silver 4 is the worst.
The point system we made up ourselves to make it more confusing. So,
Yeah. I mean, we could do it like golf, where, least points wins, and then
That's
silver
true.
1 gets 1 point, and silver 2 gets 2 points. Why not?
except for we didn't. So,
Yeah.
all right, here we go. Jeff, are you ready? We're going to go from least favorite to most favorite. Do you have yours ready? Do you have some ready?
I can tell you what my silver 4 is.
Okay.
My silver 4 beer is this one, Molson Canadian.
Yeah. I'm going to be in the same place. I think my silver 4 is Molson Canadian.
I took one sip of this. I was like, I don't remember this beer tasting this weird. Like, it has some sort of weird flavor to it. That,
It does have something strange going on, and I don't know what it is. But I don't love it. Sorry to all those Molson Canadian fans. It's not the beer for me. But I'm also from the States, so don't get mad at me.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a ton of these too, so I don't know whether that whether that factors positively or negatively. But every Canada Day, you just get a case of this shit.
Yeah. So I think that this one is. I didn't hate it. There are some silver 4s where I tasted them like, oh, okay, I gotta get through this. This one I wasn't.
Yeah,
I didn't,
one in particular kind of comes to mind.
Yeah,
for that,
but you'll have to go back to try to figure out which one that is. But this one didn't feel as horrible as some of the other ones, but it definitely felt very clear that it was silver 4 of these.
right. Yeah, exactly. I took like one sip and I was like, yep, that's where I'm placing this one.
Yeah, but Jeff, I'm so sad. I think my silver 3 is going to be Coors.
I was in 100% agreement. If I was going to pick the next one, I was going to pick Coors Original as well. Colorado not showing like our two homes here, right? Like Molson Canadian and the one from Colorado. We're not loving them.
So Coors, I think, and I noticed this in Coors Light too. I think it's just really sweet, and I noticed it immediately that it tasted really sweet. And
it does have some like unfermented sugars in it that some of the other ones don't have.
Yeah, and I think if you're drinking a lot of just that, you won't notice it. But when you drink other ones, you definitely notice that it's.
Yeah, and I've found that with the Silver Series in general, right? I always was like, oh, they're all the same, whatever. But after drinking them next to each other, you're like, actually,
They all taste.
I didn't know that I disliked this one and liked this one,
Yeah, they do taste very different from each other. So, Jeff, do you want to give us our silver 2 or your silver 2?
Yeah, this one was the toughest for me. I had my top 2 like locked in, and then 3 and 4 also were not that close. This one I felt was a bit closer. I think I'm gonna award silver to. I think I'm gonna give it to Cronenberg.
Wow. Okay.
I think that's where we're at.
Dang.
Wouldn't have picked myself as a Budweiser guy, but apparently I am, because I think that's just the one that I enjoyed the most tonight.
Interesting. I'm really close with you, actually. I think I still think I might be flipped, but
I can see that, yeah.
I'm gonna give Budweiser to Silver, too. Sorry. I think it's just because the Cronenberg. At first, I was like the 1664. I was like, all right, this is fine. Then I had the Coors. I was like, whoa, this is so sweet. And then I had the Budweiser, and I was like, this is a breath of fresh air from the Coors. But I still think I liked the other one, the Cronenberg 1664 better.
I think I'd be interested in trying the Cronenberg and the Budweiser actually back to back and not having the Coors like buffer.
Yeah, I think that would have been helpful as well. So we might have to do that. I mean, these are we gave them. They have the same points now because
this is a tie now.
This is a tie with the 7 points each, so they'll make it to a bracket. So whenever we get to our what is it, March Madness? Maybe we do it in March.
There's an idea.
We'll figure out which ones are our favorite. But
yeah, and like I said, that was super close for me. I could have gone the other way too. Mm-hmm. It's honestly just hard to compare beers that you had with another one in the middle.
Yeah.
But those were definitely my two favorites of the night for sure. And I think maybe it is because, it was the breath of fresh air after the Coors that I enjoyed the Budweiser the most. But
which again is the weird thing because I always thought I liked Coors more than Budweiser. And just because maybe
but when you have them back to back, you're like, wait a minute, and you're actually like trying to be conscious about it because you have to choose one at the end. Mm-hmm. It makes a difference too.
Yeah, but I do know that Budweiser is the king of beer, so I'm not.
I think I can like weirdly taste that it's a rice beer, which feels weird. Like it's a weird thing to say, but it has a different quality to it than some.
It does. So, in any case. Those are our rankings for those silver beers. Please tell us if you think we're absolutely wrong and one of these is your favorite beers ever or your favorite silver beer.
Hopefully we're not alienating all the Molson Canadian fans out there,
Sorry. Hey, it's still silver, right? It's not bronze.
It's just not my favorite.
Yeah. But with that, we are going to closing time. You can always reach us. You just love to throw that in whenever I'm not ready for it, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah. If you're ready for it, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. You can always reach us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram and tell us what your favorite silver beer is and what your favorite part of the story was.
Yeah. And you can also find us on MTG Arena. Our username is Arena Regulars Podcast. May or may not see us in the Draft Open.
You can find me personally at Zulberg, that is ZeulBerg on Twitter and Instagram. But Jeff, where can they find you?
You can find me at Blues Brews MTG on Twitter, BLUESBREWS MTG.
And please leave us a review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you can write a comment. We would love that. Follow us on Spotify and Stitcher. Go to our YouTube channel. We have just uploaded our first YouTube video.
Woohoo!
We are doing draft videos, so go check it out. Jeff, do you have some words about
Showcasing our impeccable draft skills, I would say.
I think so.
Yeah.
Just go there. Just comment something. We don't care if you subscribe or anything like that. Just leave us a little comment about what you thought about it, and we'd love to talk to you. So
yeah, and please hammer home that we should be playing 40 cards, not 41, because I'm trying to get Zach on that train, and it's not going well.
41 all day. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that if you're ever in a bind, just use blood. It does whatever you need it to do.
Good night. All right, that's fine.